What's up everyone and welcome back to the MMA Zone. Today, let's get started with Colby Covington discusses potential super fight with Islam Makhachev. UFC lightweight champion Islam Makhachev has continued to tease a potential move up to welterweight in the future. Given that he seems to cut a tremendous amount of weight to make the necessary 155-pound title fight limit, many have theorized that a move to welterweight could see Makhachev looking even more dominant than ever before. With number one contender Colby Covington poised to compete against Leon Edwards for the welterweight championship later this year, fans have continued to weigh in on a potential Makhachev versus Covington fight. During a recent interview with Low Kick MMA, the outspoken and oftentimes controversial two-time title challenger weighed in on the potential bout, pointing out that he helped Adriano Martins train for his fight with Makhachev back at UFC 192, and thus a fight between he and Makhachev would go the same way.
So, I was telling him the whole time, I was like, dude, check right hook, right to it, just hit a right hook. He's not ready for that. He's not keeping it, his left hand high. So that's what Adriano went out there and did, knocked him out. He's a southpaw like myself, so he doesn't fight good against southpaws. And dude, look at how much trouble he was having with that little short midget from Australia, Volkanovski. Like dude, he's a 45 featherweight, bro, and you want to come to 170 now and talk this big game?
Following their UFC 284 clash, Makhachev and Volkanovski agreed to run things back, with the featherweight champ offering to compete in Abu Dhabi after Makhachev traveled down under for their clash in Perth. Since then, however, Volkanovski has been booked for a title unification fight against Yair Rodriguez for this summer, while Makhachev finds himself waiting to find out how things play out between Charles Oliveira and Beneil Dariush in their upcoming title eliminator. With Covington and Edwards likely to compete for the welterweight title later this year, it seems as though we could find out whether a bout between Makhachev and Covington will be possible after this summer. Should the fight wind up happening, how do you see things playing out? Drop your predictions in the comment section down below. Nate Diaz wants UFC title fight after Jake Paul bout. Ahead of his August 5th showdown against Jake Paul, Nate Diaz has revealed that he plans to return to the UFC after the boxing match takes place. Following a promotional press conference, Diaz spoke to media members this week about the fight and his desire to compete against the best of the best. Despite that, he didn't close the door on continuing to box, saying that regardless of what sport, he wants to fight the best.
That's an option, the UFC. At the end of the day, I want to go back and fight for a world title. And if not, I'm going to have to make my own world title and make the best come to me. But I would like to be back in the UFC and or fight the belt holders in boxing also.
As Diaz has continued to point out, he nearly knocked out welterweight champion Leon Edwards when the two fought at UFC 263. Given that, he seems eager to compete against Rocky again, this time with the UFC title on the line. Do you think we'll ever see Diaz return to the octagon? Drop your thoughts in the comment section below. Alexander Volkanovski reacts to Aljamain Sterling's UFC 288 win. Bantamweight champion Aljamain Sterling has maintained that he will move up to featherweight once he competes against number one contender Sugar Sean O'Malley. With Sterling now clear of Triple C Henry Cejudo, the Funkmaster now finds himself gearing up for one final fight at 135 pounds. With featherweight champion Alexander Volkanovski in his sights, Sterling is eager to make the jump up and cement his place in the UFC history books as a two-division champ. According to Volkanovski, however, the Funkmaster has not quite earned himself a crack at the belt just yet. In a video released for his YouTube channel, Volkanovski weighed in, saying that the bantamweight champ needs a bigger win before calling his name.
Yeah, we weren't surprised that Sterling got that decision. So there's definitely no robbery or anything like that.
Yeah, I'm glad he didn't call me out after that fight. Again, any fight excites me. People want it, but it's again you want people to have big wins. You want people to want the fight, and it's hard to say people want the fight straight after some fights. So.
Given the fact that Volkanovski has essentially ran through most of the featherweight division, if he gets past Yair Rodriguez, the UFC could look to book a fight between he and Sterling in order to give him some fresh competition. With Sterling and O'Malley likely competing against one another later this year in Boston, only time will tell whether a fight between he and Volkanovski could be in the stars. Before we continue, make sure you give that like button some love, and be sure to subscribe to the MMA Zone for all of the latest news. Matt Frevola fires back after recent comments from Paddy Pimblett. With a massive win over Drew Dober at UFC 288, steamroller Matt Frevola called for a fight with Paddy the Baddy Pimblett, eager to derail the hype train of the streaking Scouser. The call-out was met with criticism from Pimblett as he dubbed Frevola the easiest route to a spot in the division's top 15. During a recent interview on Michael Bisping's Believe You Me podcast, Frevola responded to Pimblett's claims, saying,
"He's got to fight somebody. He said, I'm the easiest way to the top 15. Listen, you look at the top 15 of the lightweight division and, it's murderer's row. Yeah, so you got to fight somebody. Fight me."
Of course, Pimblett is currently sidelined following ankle surgery. In his controversial win over Jared Gordon, Pimblett wound up suffering an ankle injury that was more serious than initially believed. As he recovers, he's claimed that fans will be lucky to see him compete before the end of the year, meaning that by the time he's ready to step into the octagon, Frevola could already be booked for another fight. Should the two men wind up competing against one another, how do you think things play out? Drop your predictions in the comment section below. Stephen Wonderboy Thompson opens up on working with Conor McGregor on Tough 31. With the Ultimate Fighter Season 31 set to kick off later this month, fans are eager to see former two-division champion Conor McGregor and Michael Chandler coach against one another over the course of the action-packed season. While details about the season remain scarce, UFC President Dana White has revealed that McGregor and Chandler were involved in a pretty heated incident that forced him to intervene. In addition, McGregor has shared photos of he and welterweight contender Stephen Wonderboy Thompson on set, leaving fans chomping at the bit to see the two men train and coach alongside one another. During a recent interview with Chamatkar Sandhu, Thompson reflected on his time coaching alongside McGregor, revealing that he was getting ready to leave town when he was asked by his manager whether he was interested in appearing as a guest coach. Without hesitation, he said yes. As it turns out, when he saw McGregor training up close, he realized that the Irish superstar was serious about his return.
And it's funny because when you take time off like that and you're a guy like him who has been at the top of the game for a long time, not just in the fight game, but in business, you have that urge to compete, right? You have that fire in you, that flame, and you see it rekindled in him. I'm excited to see him fight again for sure.
So far, there's been no word on when McGregor and Chandler will compete against one another, given that only time will tell how things play out when McGregor makes his big return. Belal Muhammad opens up on injury heading into UFC 288. Leading up to UFC 288, there was a lot of speculation as to whether or not Belal Muhammad was fighting with an injured ankle. During his pre-fight photo shoot and during the weigh-ins, fans noticed that something looked off about Muhammad's ankle. When he was arriving for the fight on Saturday evening, some again pointed out that he seemed to be limping slightly. At the same time, some refuted the claims. However, now, in the wake of his big win over Gilbert Burns, Muhammad himself has revealed that he did indeed go into the fight with a sprained ankle while ramping up training for the short-notice bout. He spoke in an interview with MMA Underground, saying,
"Thankfully, like I said, nothing crazy. It was just we pushed ourselves in 3 weeks. Like we had to go full force right away. And I'm always an overtrainer and overworker, over thinker. So like we started going full force at it. Stuff happens, but thankfully in the fight, I felt good. The adrenaline kicked in. Nothing happened. Everything worked out in our favor. It looked smooth in there and felt smooth in there."
Although Muhammad has now punched his ticket to a crack at the winner of the upcoming Leon Edwards versus Colby Covington fight, Chaos believes that the timeline of his title shot means Muhammad will likely have to compete again before facing the winner. As a result, he thinks the only true winner of the UFC 288 title eliminator fight was Ali Abdelaziz, who reportedly manages both fighters, and likely was paid quite a bit of money from both men for his services. And now for our breaking news story of the day. We have Sean O'Malley revealing bad news about his next UFC fight. In a recent interview, he revealed that he won't be getting pay-per-view points on his next fight since he was unable to negotiate that part of his contract. Only the champion will get paid for pay-per-view sales. Here's what Sean had to say about the situation.
You think you're the A side and all the all the pressure is on you to sell this?
In my humble opinion, yes, Ariel.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying. It sucks because the champ obviously gets the pay-per-view points that I wasn't able to get that on my terms and say, hey, you know what? Let me get a little piece of that. So I'm not really. It's different. If I do get that, maybe I try to push it a little more.
By the way, I promise I'm not trying to stir the pot here. The fact that you're not going to get a percentage of the pay-per-view blows me away. Like I think that's borderline. That's a travesty. That's criminal right there.
Do you think the UFC should pay both of the fighters in the main event pay-per-view points? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for watching the video. Make sure to subscribe and click the notification bell to stay up to date with MMA news every day. Here are the top comments from yesterday's video. Unfortunately for Chimaev, how he sees things means nothing when Dana sees things differently. Colby crying about Belal needing to fight is hilarious. Nate is literally a poster child for CTE. Colby is just doing what he has to do. He knows it's only a couple fighters in the UFC that can still beat. And those were the top comments from yesterday's video. If you want to be featured on our next video, make sure to leave a comment and don't forget to check out